I'm Eric, and you should vote for me. I'm a stickman, you should stick with me. Even if I'm just a stick in the mud. I'm kidding, I'm not running for anything, but with the US elections around the corner, it's probably time to sensibly and soberly ask the question, who is the craziest man to ever become the head honcho of the US of A? You're probably thinking straight away it's gotta be Donald J. Trump, who likes to grab women by the, well, you know what I'm trying to say. You definitely wouldn't let him near your pussycat anytime soon. He likes to eat Kentucky Fried Chicken on Air Force One with silver cutlery and makes really bad racist remarks that are so much worse than your drunk uncle that one time on a national holiday. Except no, or maybe not. The thing is, all the juiciest details come out after the president is dead and gone. So Trump may be the best or the worst, but we don't know. But give us 10 years and we'll let you know if Donald Trump did build a wall around the USA just to stop Melania from escaping. Number 3, Tricky Dicky Nixon was president for only 5 years, and at that time he was primarily famous for trying to stop the Vietnam War by expanding it to include bombing Cambodia and declaring war on his citizens by both creating the war on drugs to lock up civil rights organizers and spying on them with Watergate. But actually, that was not what was so wacky. Nixon had a deep and abiding love for white substance that he was obsessed with and had to have smuggled into the White House in large quantities. It was cottage cheese. Nixon insisted on having it served by all accounts at every single meal. Which makes me wonder, did he serve it to world leaders? Could the Cold War have been wrapped up earlier if the Soviet premier hadn't been so offended by a pile of white, watery dairy waste, possibly with pineapple? Or was it influential in his ability to broker peace with China? Perhaps the most significant achievement of his time in office? Also, in 1970, after being inspired by a visit to West Germany, the Secret Service uniform branch that protects the White House goes from secret to fabulous, when he had their uniforms go from super camp with leather caps, white tunics, and leather jackboots. I will say that it's a shame to say that like his presidency and his expired cottage cheese, they didn't last. Number 2, President Lyndon Baines Johnson. LBJ was a divisive figure who greatly expanded the Vietnam War. Still, he also pushed through his predecessor's vision of a Civil Rights Act, finally forcing the right to vote and equality in employment and education in resistant southern states. Though there is a story that he gave his staff a load of crap quite literally, as he was notorious for allegedly on occasion briefing journalists and his staff while on the crapper. What is better known is his obsession with his male organ, which he referred to as jumbo, and would whip it out on almost any occasion, even in one case to answer to the question of why the US was still in the Vietnam War. He was also a horn dog, with a recorded conversation on the phone where he tried to pick up Jackie Kennedy only shortly after he took over as president after her husband was unalived. There is no record of him suggesting that they visited the elephant department at the zoo so she could pet Jumbo and feed him some peanuts. If you know what I mean, wink wink. Number 1, Andrew Jackson. He was really crazy and not in the fun kind. He was the leave the bar and look at your shoes or change schools if he was in your class kind of person, and possibly even leave the country kind of crazy. Jackson is mostly looked down on for beginning the ethnic cleansing of First Nation Americans east of the Mississippi, wrecking the economy and helping support slavery. But as for crazy, this was a man who, despite being a mediocre shot, fought multiple duels. And his secret? He didn't mind getting shot, and in one famous case, going up against a dude who was a far better shot, let him shoot him in the chest, just so Andy could carefully aim his shot and kill him. He's lucky he died before the invention of the metal detector, but perhaps predicting metal detectors, he would on occasion carve out musket balls from his own flesh when bored during cabinet meetings. He also believed in cutting himself to drain out poisonous humors. Indeed, when shot by a potential assassin, his bodyguards had to protect the poor fool from Andy trying to beat him to death with his cane. But he did have a kinder side. He had a giant wheel of cheese left in the front of the White House for any who were hungry to come and eat. Although it was probably more like a mousetrap, because if you took a nibble, he'd jump out and beat you with his cane. Andy is probably most famous for his wise and pithy words when asked on his deathbed if he had any regrets. I didn't shoot Henry Clay, and I didn't hang John Calhoun. So those are the top 3 craziest US presidents, and in my opinion, I'm sticking by them. Okay, I didn't mention George Washington and his false teeth made from other people's teeth, or JFK and his addiction to banging anything in a skirt that wasn't a Scotsman, claiming not having sex with a different woman gave him crippling migraines. Or, well, you know what, they're all pretty nutty, so you should vote for me. It couldn't be any worse, right? Well, I'll see you in our next adventure as we dive into the crazy facts from all around the world.